We're at the Vicksburg National Battlefield to announce Episode 12 of the Texas Generals, presented by the Texas Division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. I'm Johnny Anderson, and this is the monument to Brigadier General Thomas Neville Waul, who we'll profile in this episode. General Waul commanded Waul's Texas Legion, one of the two Texas units to fight during the siege of Vicksburg in 1863. We hope you enjoy this episode, and if you do, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.
Thomas Neville Waul was born on January the 5th, 1813 in Sumter County near Statesburg, South Carolina. Thomas's grandfathers were active Whigs and soldiers in the Revolutionary War. After the war, they settled in South Carolina near the home of their comrade, Brigadier General Thomas Sumter. He attended South Carolina College, now the University of South Carolina, for 3 years, which was all he could afford, and left without graduating. He moved to Florence, Alabama, where he taught school for 1 year and then moved to Vicksburg, Mississippi. At Vicksburg, Thomas worked in the office of Sergeant Smith Prentice, an attorney and state representative. In 1835, Waul was admitted to practice law in the Supreme Court of Mississippi, and in 1837, he married 17-year-old Mary America Simmons from Georgia. In the 1850s, Thomas and Mary moved to Gonzales County, Texas, and established a plantation on the Guadalupe River. According to his obituary, Waul had accumulated substantial wealth. The 1860 census showed that he owed $20,000 in real property, $714,000 in today's dollars, and owned 45 enslaved persons, 19 of which were 10 years old or younger. In 1859, Waul was persuaded to run for Congress, but was defeated. During the presidential campaign of 1860, he supported the ticket of John C. Breckinridge for president. One story goes that during a speech in Seguin, Waul was asked, "But suppose that Lincoln should be elected. What would you do then?" Waul answered without hesitation, "God Almighty grant that that day will never come. Yet should that evil day arrive, then as under any other circumstances I shall remember that I am a native son of the South, and shall say to her, as Ruth said to Naomi, 'Whither thou goest, I will go.'" When Texas seceded from the Union in February 1861, Waul was sent to the Provisional Congress at Montgomery, Alabama. In November 1861, he ran for a seat in the Confederate Senate, but was again defeated, whereafter he returned back to Brenham, Texas.
In March 1862, the Secretary of War authorized Waul to form a legion of troops. Legions were an outdated military organization that included infantry, cavalry, and artillery all in one unit. Most legions were regimental in strength, but Waul's was brigade strength, and the only true legion of Texas troops during the war. Consisted of 12 infantry companies, 6 cavalry companies, and a light artillery battery with some 2,000 men in total. On May the 17th, Waul was commissioned as the Legion's commander with the rank of colonel. It trained here at Camp Waul just north of Brenham until mid-August of 1862. And just like the units that were in the East, sickness and disease had a major impact, with a measles epidemic affecting some 600 troops.
In the fall of 1862, the Legion moved to Vicksburg and was reorganized, losing most of its cavalry and artillery units. In January of 1863, the Legion was assigned to William Loring's division in Pemberton's army and moved to Snyder's Bluff along the Yazoo River. In February, the Legion built a new fort called Fort Pemberton, located between the Tallahatchie and Yazoo rivers. And on March the 11th, Union forces, supported by the ironclads USS Chillicothe and USS Baron de Kalb, attacked the fort but were repulsed, forcing Grant to look for another way to get to Vicksburg. The Legion garrisoned the fort until May the 6th, but once Grant had troops on the east bank of the Mississippi River and threatening Vicksburg, Pemberton ordered the Legion to return to Vicksburg. On May the 22nd, 1863, Grant ordered a major assault in an attempt to take Vicksburg. Union forces breached the Confederate lines and took control of the railroad redoubt. After 2 failed attempts by the 30th and 12th Alabama to retake the redoubt, Waul was ordered by General Stephen Lee to retake the fort at all costs. 40 Legion volunteers attacked using hand grenades, retook the redoubt, and captured 50 Union prisoners. The rest of the Legion was positioned to the right of the redoubt and repelled the 11th Wisconsin and the 97th Illinois. By the evening, Union forces had retreated to their original lines. It was after this battle that Grant decides to lay siege to the city. With no hope of reinforcement and all supplies exhausted, General Pemberton surrenders to General Grant on July 4, 1863, with the condition that his troops be paroled. Of the 755 Legion infantry at Vicksburg, 1/3 were either killed or wounded. On September 18, 1863, Waul was promoted to Brigadier General. And on February 11, 1864, he was relieved and ordered to report to Major General Richard Taylor, the son of President Zachary Taylor in the District of West Louisiana, where he was given command of the 1st Brigade of Walker's Texas Division, formerly led by Brigadier General James Hawes. During the Red River Campaign in 1864, Waul led his brigade in Walker's division at the Battle of Mansfield. With Hamilton P.B.'s cavalry on the right flank with William Scurry's brigade, Waul attacked along the west side of the Mansfield Road, turning back the Union left flank. The Union soldiers panicked and fell back to Pleasant Hill, where they were again routed by the Texans the next day. After this, the Texas Brigade was sent north to deal with the Union 7th Corps. General Edmund Kirby Smith launched an attack on the Union forces at Jenkins Fury in Arkansas on April 30, 1864. Waul's brigade, along with Scurry and Randall's, pushed the Federals back into the swollen Saline River. But Union artillery on the other side of the river pushed them back, killing General Scurry and wounding General Waul. After the Trans-Mississippi Department surrendered in May of 1865, Waul returned to Gonzales and then practiced law in Galveston between 1866 and 1893. He retired to a farm that he named Cherry Hill just outside of Greenville in Hunt County, Texas. He died there of tuberculosis on July 28, 1903. His body was moved to Fort Worth to the home of his niece, Mrs. W.B. Harrison, where the funeral was held, and his body interred at the Oakwood Cemetery.